I always find this strange. Future me has just brought me back here. But anyway, so I knitted another pattern from 52 weeks of socks, and like I said, this has been great for flicking through, and you know, you see patterns that do remind you of people almost, and like personally I wanted to make a pair of slippers because the ones that I've got are lovely and they were a gift, but I've literally worn a hole in them. So I'm going to probably knit a pair of these myself, but let me find it. They are beautiful. You should have tabbed the page. I had every intention of knitting a pair myself. So they're the Elf Sweater by Kazja Vorla. Kazja Vorla. Comes in 2 sizes, and they are really beautiful colourwork socks. And they do have a really interesting construction. And I hoped that I had a sock blocker with me just to show you what they look like. But classic. I'm not very organised. I can see the sock blocker, but I'm not going to get it. So here is what I've done. And I have knitted the pair, and I couldn't be more happy, to be honest. I think they're great. So you cast on the heel, you knit the entire heel, and then you put some stitches on hold, cast on some more stitches, and then knit in the round down to the toe. It has a really gorgeous finish to the toe. I think it's really, really nice and neat. And they are colourwork. And yeah, I think I need a pair for myself. They would also make great mittens with a bit of modification. Not much modification, mind. So, oh, I love these. These are a Mother's Day gift from my mum, which by now will have been. And hopefully we will get to go for a quick walk in the park because she is due to have her vaccine, which is really exciting. And I knitted these using these yarns. These were, or are, my own hand dyed, and I've taken most of it offline. There's not very much left, to be honest. There's a handful of skeins left, but I kept some aside, mostly because I wanted to be able to give gifts using things that I'd made myself. I just think it's a bit more special. And in truth, when I saw these colours, my mum is a bit of a... She used to do peacock colours a lot, and that spoke to me in this. And I really liked these 2 mohairs and just felt like adding mohair would be very... I wouldn't say brand, I don't think I'm a brand, but very on brand. And I was a bit like, oh, maybe she won't like it, but I'm really pleased I did, because it almost made them dual toned. And no matter how good the camera is today, it's never going to pick up quite how well these have come out, I don't think, colour wise. But they're just, to me it's like, I've kept all the scraps, like the bits that, because it's just like mermaid hair, and I really don't know what to do with it. Maybe crochet a mermaid. But I just loved it, and I'm really pleased with how they came out. So I did modify it a bit because I opted to knit them in DK and mohair rather than, I think the pattern called for just DK. I did my usual, I went down, I can't remember, maybe 1 or 2 needle sizes, because I've got a feeling that these will give quite a bit. and the size I ended up getting is perfect for me. So I might knit them myself, but using just DK, and stick with the needle size I did, so that when they give a little bit, they fit me perfectly. But I think these will give enough to give my mum a nice amount of, you know, they will grow a little bit, I think, but hopefully not too much. The DK that I used is a Peruvian Highland base. It's an organic, non-superwash yarn. And yeah, what else did I do? I went up a bit to do the I-cord bind off, just because I know that I have a tendency, especially now I use DPNs to do my I-cord bind offs for speed. It seems to come out a bit tighter, which I quite like. So I went back up a needle size or two to just ensure that it had enough give. Yeah, I think they're really cool. I am definitely going to have a pair of these for myself. Whether I use Lopi and sort of allow them to felt, I might not do the colourwork, I might do the colourwork, but I've got to say I really enjoyed knitting colourwork. I think aside from these tiny swatches and that jumper, that's all the colourwork I've done for quite a while, I think. So, and I don't even know that really classifies as colourwork to me. But yeah, really pleased with these, and yeah, really great gift pattern. If you have the 52 weeks of socks book, I do recommend knitting from it. Good fun, good construction. Kind of want to put them on myself, but I'm not going to. And I was thinking about blocking them, but I mean, I think the colourwork's neat enough that it doesn't really need it, and I think I'm just going to let them be worn and see how they do. Anyway, with that, back to the future. Anyway. Hello, welcome to Heather and Hops. My name is Kat, or Catherine. I'm a knitter based in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. It's lovely to welcome you here today. If you are new, I guess this is maybe a strange episode to start with, but maybe you'll get to know who I am a bit more. This is little Audrey, who does more often than not these days join us, since she has her own little sofa. I have been out for a corner of cardio moment. If you know Hannah from the Corner of Craft, she is currently doing the Couch to 5k, and I personally have been finding that if I go out for be it a walk or a run before I record, I seem to have a slightly clearer way of speaking and feel slightly on an endorphin rush, I guess. So I'm doing my best to kind of stick with that. So I have been out for a run, my hair is wet, it's been raining, and I feel quite content. So welcome, hi. I have a bit of knitting with me today. Like I said, if you've not been here before, I've documented my knitting journey from my first project really through to now, where I am sort of working through a 6-year project. The next saga of that starts in September, which is really exciting. And yeah, I hope you are well. I don't have a drink with me today. I am going to be eating as soon as I'm done recording, and I like to not have had a drink just before I eat. There you go, some useless info for me. I opted to sit on the sofa today. I thought it would be nice to get a little bit cozy, since though it's quite warm out, it is rainy, and I just thought this was a nice spot. Not much of a different view from normal, but anyway. Let's start with some questions. I put a little thing on Instagram. I try and be good with social media, but if you know me at all, I am really not the best. I really try, but I find it very easy to get quite overwhelmed quite quickly. Just so much information. So let's just pluck a question. The first one was, how do I organise my time? That's a tricky one because I came to knitting and what I seem to be doing now through being unwell. I've talked about it a bit, not in too much detail. I kind of think that this is really a space for knitting chat, but that has a big impact on what I do with my time, so I try and be very flexible. I do tend to do more important things at the start of the week, things that I know I need to get done, and then allow myself to be a little bit more free and creative by the end of the week. And I quite heavily rely on my little book, which is where all my questions are today. I will refer to my phone maybe if I haven't waffled too much. And I use my book, and I won't show you this week's, I'll show you an empty one, and I will put a photo of this on my Ko-Fi. But I set up my week very simply and rely on my book. So I will have the day of the week with space for me to put in specifics that I want to do in a day. I have the week number. I don't know why I quite like to know where we are. Currently we're on week 11 and this is for week 12. I have a little area here for my knitting, and I've started to use post-its, and I will carry it over just because I was writing the same thing week on week because I do have long-term projects, and I also have a long-term other project post-it, so maybe upcycling a seat and things that I want to do but haven't quite got to do. And then all of my weekly to-do lists will go along here, and if any of them fit within a day specifically that I want to get them done, I'll carry them over. I don't know why this is the method that works best for me. I've been using something like this for 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years now, and this over time has been the way that works best. And I also have sort of, I say goals, but they are things that I like to know that I've achieved. So yoga, going outdoors, replying to messages, and working out. This changes over time. Sometimes it's I would like to remind myself to consume more water, maybe it's eating more potatoes. I always go to potatoes at the moment, I don't know. But this is how I organise my time, and it very much varies week on week. But yeah, hopefully maybe that's helped. But like I said, I will try and put a photo of that on Ko-Fi so that you can see that. Should that be useful to you? I don't know. What have we got? Describe your style. That's I would like to do a mood board of my sort of what I'm drawn to style. I've recently done a mood board that covers what I currently wear and how I think I dress season by season, actually photographing items in my wardrobe and then collating them together in what I wear throughout the year, in the different seasons, and that's been really useful. But in the past, fairly recently, I described my style as potentially farm emo. I definitely think there is a sort of hippie boho thing, but really what it comes down to is being practical and comfortable. I don't like things that are necessarily tight, and that doesn't mean like fitted. I don't mind a fitted item, but I don't like things with a tight and stiff waist, for example. My favourite trousers are ones that have an elasticated back, my linen ones with a drawstring, so they're just so comfortable. I used to love wearing yoga or stretchy workout leggings all the time, but I have noticed that I'm less and less drawn to them because they are tight. I love that they're stretchy and I really enjoy wearing them when I do, but it's less and less often, and if I'm moving as opposed to if I'm going to be sat for long periods of time. yeah, I don't think I can really answer that one, but practical and comfortable are the things that are really important to me when it comes to wearing, knitting, making clothes. Maybe I should tick these off so I don't repeat myself. I'm silly. Let's turn that off too. Do you focus on intentional knitting? How do you make sure not to cast on everything? Well, my book really helps with that. Having a plan and actually having done the mood boards I did recently, I know where the holes in my wardrobe are. My book also has birth dates in it, so I know when I would like to have gifts knitted for if I'm doing them. I found that allowing time before casting things on, I know that it's really tempting, and I still do immediately cast things on if it feels absolutely right, and I would never discourage anyone from that joy. But planning seems to be a really good way for me to knit intentionally. So really looking at my wardrobe, looking at what friends or family love, and trying to knit according to that, and not necessarily jumping on the bandwagon, though the ranunculus at the moment seems to be really popular, and I do think it's for a very good reason. That casting on immediately when I received the yarn was totally right. So again, if it's right, it's right, and I think you'll know. I don't know if that helps, but to me that's kind of how I do intentional knitting, and I guess also swatching. I can't emphasize enough. I keep getting asked about needle sizes and what size I've knitted, and while I can, and I'm glad to assist where I can, it's really so personal. Swatching will allow you to know if the item you're knitting will come out to the size that you want, if you're even going to like the fabric, and I think that's really important, because you might think, oh, I'll cast on a really loose gauge, and you might really dislike the fabric, or it's impractical because it drapes too much or it grows too much. I think, yeah, intentional by way of spending time getting to know, almost having a little coffee meet up with the yarn before you use it is also good. When you knit mohair and loose fabrics, do they keep the shape well? Most of them, I would say yes. This top in particular, well, cardigan, this was self-drafted, and I've had the same problem that I had with my Sunday cardigan, which I know Petite Knits has actually put in a modification for that now. So the button band sags, which isn't the nicest thing to look at, and I might give this a block, a little wash and a block. It's well overdue that at this point, to see if I can get that to sort of even back out a little bit. But I know that Petite Knits has fixed that with a pattern update. But my ranunculus or cherry and self-drafted things in mohair wool kept their shape really well. They sometimes get crinkly from being folded up, but that's nothing that a bit of steam can't sort out. So overall I've not had an issue, but I guess it would depend on the weight of the item, how tightly it's knitted, how loose it's knitted, but I'm yet to have an issue. Yeah. How much time do I set aside for knitting? Again, that's really dependent. If I'm working on something that I'm really excited about, I might spend more time knitting in a day. I might just, actually knit for 7 hours in a day. If I'm unwell, the same applies. If there's nothing I can really do with my body other than sit and knit, other than sit and knit, then I will just do so, whether that's on the sofa, in bed, sitting in the garden when the weather's a bit warmer. But usually I'd say 2 hours in the morning and maybe 45 minutes in the 45 minutes in the morning when I get up. I usually allow myself 45 minutes before I jump onto the computer to look at emails and Instagram and comments and things, and then I usually have 2 hours at least in the evening. But sometimes it can be a lot more, sometimes I actually just want a punch needle, so it really does vary, but I do like to make sure I stretch, and I do often change projects. I try and have a few different projects on the needles at different weights and different techniques, because I find that for me, swapping projects is really good for my hands, because it's a slightly different movement depending on what needles they are and different stitches, but also that changing reminds me to stretch or get up and get some water. So I quite like to have not loads, but 3-4 projects that I can sort of swap between. So that was a little bit of a off-piste. Spiritual guardian inspiration. So the spiritual guardian cowl was a little piece that I kind of came up with through practicality. I really did want a cowl for myself, but I also wanted to knit one as a gift for someone that slightly older, and I didn't know that I knitted them a shawl already, but has a hot temperatures every now and then, so I thought a cowl would be a really good option for taking out on walks and things, so you can have it in your bag if you get too warm, but pop it on as soon as you get too cold. And it's not very faffy, and it doesn't take up too much material. But the design actually came from watching Critical Role. If you don't know it, highly recommend, especially if you need some escapism. It's a fantastic show. It is watching people play Dungeons and Dragons, but I can't recommend it enough. It's opened my creativity and imagination up tenfold. I don't think I had it until I started watching this amazing show. But anyway, there in particular is a spell called Spirit Guardians that 2 of the players use quite a bit. And there's also another one called Spiritual Weapon. And I came up with a character for myself that used both of these spells, and the way she is a druid, a half-elf druid. Can she use it? I'm sure she can. Anyway, maybe it was my other character. Anyway, when she used the spell, the energy would come out and it would twist and twist and twist and twist and create these shapes, and it was almost vine looking. And I decided to kind of play on that, and the glow of the mohair is kind of meant to give that feeling of coziness, of magic, and encapsulating you and keeping you safe. So that's where that came from. Again, slightly strange, but if you've been here a while, you might know that about me. I'm going to cross these off as I go again. I think that's good. A dream of yours that gets you excited. Going to Scotland again, visiting Hawaii, visiting Norway, Iceland, with Alex, I guess. Adventuring is the key, like the big thing, and just seeing nature. That's all that really boils down to, is seeing nature. But the other more fibre related dream is to visit sheep. Ideally spin yarn myself from said sheep after shearing them, because that's something I really want to learn. and then being able to design and knit something and go back to the sheep and show them. That's kind of my biggest dream. I have a little bit way to go strength-wise, I think, until I can shear a sheep. I definitely once upon a time could have been plenty strong enough to do so, but I'm not sure I could now. I could maybe handle mohair goats, but maybe not the big male mohair goats, but maybe the kids with ease now. But yeah, that's my big dream. I would really love to take something in its totally raw, natural form and go through the entire process, feeling everything and knowing fully that I did it, I made it, my hands did it from start to finish. Obviously I didn't make the wool itself because the sheep does the hard work on that, but that's my big dream. I don't think it's too wild of a dream, but it's a little bit of out of reach at the moment. Stepping, that's the word, away from knitting talk. What is your favourite breakfast? On the weekend, I am 100% a sourdough toast with scrambled eggs. Ideally, favourite would be French butter and Marmite, but I would take normal salted butter. That's my favourite weekend breakfast, with maybe a few tomatoes and a handful of rocket or some wilted spinach, but Marmite and scrambled eggs on sourdough is my favourite, 100%. But in the week, porridge. I love water cooked porridge. I'm not sure why, but I do. I like water cooked porridge with any number of fruits, nut butters, chia seeds, flax seeds. Yeah, that's my favourite. A big bowl of porridge, and I would gladly eat that all year round, and I've found that that's been really good for my body. Yeah. I best hit pause because I didn't realise how long I've been talking. So I've also been asked, how big is your wool pantry? I have 5 sort of, the IKEA, these thing boxes. I've got 5 of those approximately filled, and I do have a bag upstairs under the bed of acrylic yarns, and I have some cones for the knitting machine, and I have a little I got Lush bath bomb gift box that's also full of like ends and scraps and bits that I'm using for my punch needle cushion that I've been working on for ages, and only pick it up every now and then, but I'm finding myself doing it more to try and give my hands a break, not because I'm suffering or because my hands are aching anyway, but just because I'm conscious. I have done quite a bit of knitting in the last week, and I just find that having something slightly different where I'm still able to sit and feel like I'm playing with wool and smell the sheepiness. Yeah, so that's my wool pantry. I guess I also have the bits that are sort of on display, and I don't keep them out because they look pretty necessarily, though I must say they really do. I keep them out as inspiration, and almost like to me, it means that I'm less likely to rush because I know I've got something there waiting. It's not like I'm rushing to find something else. It's like I can sit and intentionally enjoy the project that I'm currently knitting on because there's always something ready. And these ones generally don't have a project in mind, but they're there to try and spark that inspiration, and it's amazing how often that happens actually. Yeah. Favourite yarn brands? That's a loaded question. That's quite... So I would say that on the slightly larger, I'm not saying they're large companies, side would be Rowwork and Whistlebear. Both have yarn that I personally absolutely love. I've used it, I find joy working with it. I've met both of the owners of the company. I love both of the ethics, everything they stand for, and those items are things that I'm absolutely 100% drawn to. I reach for them every time I go to my little drawer. It's not really a drawer, maybe I'll try and put in a bit of, but where my knitwear sits, I often find myself drawn to those. Blacker yarns, again in the slightly large, well, Blacker yarns is definitely bigger than those. And Jameson and Smith and Lopi or Icetex, they're companies, again, I really like the wool. It's, you know, minimally sort of processed from what I understand. It feels natural and woolly to me, and that brings me a lot of joy. I haven't had experience wearing Mondim yet by Rosa Pomar, but that so far has been a really nice sock yarn. And other yarns that I have in my possession but haven't knitted with yet, but are just people that I've connected with or seen, and their ethics and energy, I want to say, resonates with me, is Woolly Mammoth and Marina Skewer. The yarns that I've received are absolutely beautiful. They feel great, and I'm genuinely really very excited to knit with them. I don't know, it's just very special to knit with something when you know that the care that's gone into it, and that there's a positivity that comes from supporting someone with as good a heart as you feel like they have, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think they're my favourite sort of yarn brands. There's a few that I would love to try. I think Brambles and Me, and Gathered Sheep Yarns. Trying to think. There's quite a lot out there. There's so many good companies. There's so many companies that are doing things more and more in a way that my heart sings with, and I think knowing that we're all very different and that there is options out there, I think that's very cool. In terms of more things that I'm stepping away from but still would love to support, Woolen Witch, Creative Anarchy and Chromatic Yarns are all three companies that have wonderful women leading them, driving them, creating gorgeous colours, and I would gladly support them. And when the time comes when I need some superwash yarns, or even none, because I'm sure they're all sort of on the fence, which is really mad but quite exciting, I would gladly support. Hannah of Creative Anarchy has a beautiful set for ghost horses, which I'm sure she does not want me saying about anymore because she's dyed it loads and loads and loads. But the colourway Calcifer is just beautiful. Steph of Woolen Witch not only does yarn, which I do love, and I did for the first 3 months of this year have her sub club. I'm really excited for the March one to come through. But she does these gorgeous stitch markers, and the club itself is wonderful. This month is moon gazing, so I'm really excited to see what comes from that. But they're wooden stitch markers, and I really can't recommend, if you need just a tiny little pick-me-up and you want something for your projects that's going to make your heart sing, I can't recommend them enough. In fact, I know that my January Club one is up there because it was sat next to my crystal, but these ones are not club ones, but these are just a couple that I really love, and Alex uses them too. It's so cute. I use them as progress keepers as opposed to stitch markers, but I just love the aesthetic. And then chromatic yarns. If you don't know Hannah of the Corner of the Craft, I'd be really surprised because everyone knows Hannah. Hannah, you're wonderful. I'm sure you're not here watching, but Dungeons and Dragons themed yarn. Oh no, it changed. I was wearing a club colourway crop top this morning. But yeah, I love Hannah's, just the colours, and the fact that it's Dungeons and Dragons related just makes my heart sing. So I think that's quite a lot of yarn brands. What else? Plan for the next phase of the apprenticeship. Countries, time periods and techniques I'm most excited for. I think that kind of warrants an entire half an hour chat, to be honest. But the next stage is in September/October. I will be moving towards travelling around the world through knitting. So I'm sure that I'm going to have a lot of help from the likes of Roxanne Richardson, who many people recommend, and I'm trying to hold fire for now, planning, which I think sounds a bit ludicrous, but there's a couple of books that I would like to purchase, two that in particular that have been recommended to me. But I've done this in the past where I've over-planned and then felt a little bit overwhelmed. So what I was hoping to do is keep gathering lists of places that, mostly where people are from, and I think this is amazing. So people, I've had quite a few, oh yeah, this town or my village, my home village has got this or this technique. So what I'm trying to do is collect a list, and I will probably allow a random generator or Excel random function to select it. I just think it means that I'm not trying to decide or prioritize things, because for me, I do want it to be a bit of an adventure too, and I don't want to, how do I say it, like, it's very easy to be like, oh, this technique's going to be too difficult, I'll put it back a bit. But I find it personally a lot easier to jump into things if I don't know too much. So I'm hoping that's the way I'm going to do it. But hopefully that answers it. I am excited for a lot of the different techniques, to be honest. And whether I err towards a blanket to practice the techniques on, or try and figure out garments or a way of doing it where I can fit more than one technique, or I don't know, lots of thinking to do, but I'm trying not to overanalyze and plan too far in advance, because I know that it's very easy for me to get overwhelmed. But I'm most excited to do a blanket, kind of a wall hanging / tapestry type big masterpiece. And I think what I might do is, I was hoping, or initially thinking, I would tell the story of the history of knitting, and I'm not committing to any idea yet, but I think it might be nice to tell my story. I've met so many amazing people along the way here in particular, that I think it would be quite fun to do that, to somehow do a nod to the different stages that I've experienced. And I think 6 years brings a lot, and if I can, yeah, so that's what I'm really, really excited for. Let's check. Think. Oh, one last one. There's a couple of repeats that have just come through on Instagram. But any advice for knitters to turn their passion into a livelihood? I think many people would probably say the same thing. And it's not necessarily the easiest thing to hear, but what I do is not particularly stable. And what is it that I do? I don't really have a name for it. I share my craft, my love, my passion now through YouTube. I don't make very much money on having ads on here, which is fine. I would really love to take them off, but at this point every little really makes such a big difference to my life. I have a Ko-Fi open, which I was really reluctant to do, but I try not to cry. Honestly, I can't get over how grateful I am to have that support and how much it really has helped and is helping me, not even financially, but in a way to actually purchase things to help what I'm doing, help what I'm learning to grow and develop. I have a few projects that are underway that I'm really excited by, from my no nylon sock project to a slightly more secret one to a couple of designs that I literally couldn't do without that support. I have a few patterns that I have released kind of by accident, is how I want to describe it. They've been personal designs that have then, I've had kind people request them, and I am currently working on my little top, and will very soon put my wedding shawl into tech editing too. I'm trying not to rush because I really want these processes to really stay with me, so that going forward I can replicate it a little bit easier, make my life a lot easier, and be able to share more. I know that I've had a few requests for my play suit, which is really cool, and I just want to know that I can do it justice and make it fit. For me, fit and enjoyment of knitting it is so important that I don't want to do it in part and then not be as good as I could possibly do. So I'm working on that really slowly, and that is a bit of livelihood too. So that to say, I couldn't do this without Alex at all. He is an absolute rock. He works so hard and has encouraged me to continue doing what I'm doing, as opposed to try and go back to work and suffer again, which is amazing. I don't underestimate how grateful and how lucky of a position I am to be here today. But my advice really is, do what you really love in a way that you truly believe in. I've come back to intentional knitting, and that's because that's, for me, what I believe in. I've come back to natural yarns because that's what I believe in. I share what I'm doing because I wanted that connection, but actually it also opens up an amazing dialogue where I'm learning at the same time. Each comment, sharing patterns, sharing techniques. It's just, yeah, I kind of went off topic again, but do what you love is all I can really say, and do what you truly believe in. Don't second guess and go off piste if you can help it. Do what really, really makes you happy. Yeah. And stay with it too. Things don't happen overnight. I I never anticipated being here talking still, but by being here still I've learnt a lot, I've grown a lot, and it's only reinforced the ideas and things that I love. So yeah, I don't know, that was maybe interesting, maybe not. Maybe we'll do another video like this further down the line. Maybe we won't. But it was quite nice to sit and reflect with you, and hopefully answer a few things. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I do hope you've had a lovely week. We have got some natural dyeing things to show you. I might see if Alex will jump on and spend 5 minutes sharing, maybe next week. He took part in a little natural dyeing course over the weekend, and he used some turmeric, he used some, I believe it was Mexican tarragon, and some onion skins, and he did some dyeing, including an item that I had knitted previously and quite liked the colour before, but absolutely love it now. So I'm quite excited to share that. And yeah, I hope you do have a lovely week. I hope that you get some time to sit and knit. I guess, quick peek, this is a little top slash jumper that I'm working on. I cast it on last week after some very excited comments about my little tulip motif. I've had some questions on it, if I will share it on Ravelry or what I'm going to do with it. I hadn't intended on, I guess as ever, releasing anything because it's a little bit of a funky one to work. It's not difficult by any means, but I love things that make my hands become a bit more dexterous, and this would do that. So what I might do is spend some time writing it up, maybe making a video, and maybe make it available on Ko-Fi. I just seem to think that, well, it seems like the best platform. I can do blog posts there, I can just explain myself a bit better and have links to it. So I might pop that up on there at some point, because it does make quite a great border. Tops, jumpers, baby jumpers, and there seems to be some excitement, and you can use all of these lovely special yarns and scraps for it. So I have knitted this using Whistlebear Yevering Bell in the Dark Woods, and this one is Shropshire DK by You and Ply, the colourway Middle Earth, which has now sold out, which I was thinking about making this into a longer sleeve, so we'll see what I get out of it, and we'll see if I end up keeping it or not. And then this is a massive mix. I think I hold 7 yarns together, some of them lace weight, some of them 4-ply, but there's some very special minis in here, some Yevering Bell by Whistlebear, some of my own hand-dyed yarn, and 1 strand of the Moorland Miss in the Cheviot Marsh base by Whistlebear too. So this is really fun. I'm enjoying knitting on it, and I have enjoyed sitting here knitting it with you. Yeah, I think that's it. If you've got any ideas, any more questions, I'm happy to do my best to try and answer them. Have a lovely week, and I hope to see you soon to share some more of the knitting projects. I don't know. See you soon. bye.